Hello, my name is Gage Hawes, and today I'll be covering the basics of the secondary. This includes the positions, their roles, and the different alignments of the secondary to understand how a defensive back operates and how the overall defensive coverages work. To begin, we need to understand the different positions of the secondary. There are two general types of positions: cornerbacks and safeties. Cornerbacks are players that are close to the line of scrimmage lined up across from a wide receiver. There are outside corners, who are the ones who play the outside most receivers. Then there are two types of inside corners. When there's a three cornerback defense, it's called a nickel defense, and the inside corner is called the apex defender or nickelback. In defenses where there are four cornerbacks, it's referred to as a dime defense, and the inside corners are called the dime backs. Moving upwards, we get the two safeties, the free safety and the strong safety. While the differences between the two have started to fade away, there are still key differences. Free safeties, otherwise known as field side safeties, are faster and are more coverage oriented, while strong safeties, or boundary safeties, are more aggressive and can handle themselves within the box. Now that we understand the different positions within a secondary, we can start to dive into what each position's specific role is and how they're positioned. The primary purpose of the secondary is to protect from an offense's passing game. To do this, a defense runs a specific coverage centered around either zone or man coverage. Man coverage is simple and easy, but is easy for an offense to diagnose and exploit. Man coverage simply means that there is a player assigned to every eligible receiver of the offense, and they follow no matter what. Zone coverage centers around the linebackers and defensive backs having an assigned zone that covers the field, generally separated into over and underneath zones. Zone is slightly harder to gauge, but can lead to issues with the zone assignments and have holes within their coverage that are easy for an offense to exploit when they diagnose what coverage it is. Here is an example of man coverage. This defense is too high, but is running a cover one robber, which is where one of the safeties drops down into a middle zone, while the other safety stays on a higher, deepest man zone. In this particular example, every single cornerback and linebacker is paired to a specific offensive player and follows them throughout the play. In this particular example, we're going to see a cover 3 set of zone. This means that there are 3 zones over the top and 4 underneath. To accomplish this, we're going to have one of the safeties roll down into the flats. Now that we understand the basics on how a defense operates within coverage, we can start to dive into the specific terms that we use to identify what a specific defense looks like and how each position operates within a specific scheme. I have been saying the secondary throughout this video. The secondary just refers to the players that are not within inside the box or close to the offensive line. Here in this example, all of the linebackers and defensive linemen here are what are considered within the box, and all the players outside of it are what we would consider to be in the secondary. There are 2 primary shells for a defense's coverage to be set in. This is 1 high and 2 high. This just refers to the number of players lined up within the deep part of the defense where the safeties are. Here's an example of single high. We can see that there is only 1 deep defender, which is the safety. Here is a different example featuring a 2 high defense. As we can see, there are 2 deep safeties, which means that we can identify it as a 2 high system. This is also, in theory, you could switch it to a 0 high where there's no deep safeties, or even a 3 high if you have multiple safeties back. Cornerbacks are aligned with 2 different components in mind: depth and shading. Shading just refers to the position laterally where a corner is, either outside or inside shade. Here in this example, we'll be looking at the top 2 players. Over the top of the defender is just an even shade, whereas if he was to the outside shoulder, it would be considered an outside shade, or if he was on the inside shoulder, it would be considered an inside shade. The depth of a specific cornerback is also referred to as the cushion that a cornerback is giving. In this example, we can see an example of a cornerback having minimal cushion and being in press coverage, and we see an example of a cornerback having a lot of cushion here. These two differences are important as press coverage is considered a more aggressive coverage and can lead to a huge deep play if the receiver can get around to the cornerback, whereas if you have more depth, you're more protected from deeper plays, but it opens up the short passing game. Defensive backs, and particularly cornerbacks, have a really tough role to play within a defense and probably have the toughest role besides a quarterback within the game of football as a whole. But they have the ability to completely change the reflection of a game with a broken up pass on third down or an interception. That's why their roles are so important, and that's why cornerbacks specifically are one of the most popularized positions, especially within defense. Let's review. The secondary is comprised of two types of players, cornerbacks and safeties. Outside cornerbacks don't have a unique name, but the inside cornerbacks have the labels nickel or apex for a 3-cornerback defense and dimeback for 4 cornerback defenses. Safeties are comprised into 2 different categories, with either free or field safeties that have a coverage-oriented skill set, or the strong or boundary safeties, which prioritize versatility and run-stopping ability. These players utilize either man or zone coverage to defend from an offense's pass game. Within future installments, I'll start covering the different formations of defense, and later on start covering the different types of coverages we utilize to protect from an offense's passing game. Thank you for watching.